Hello and welcome to our first podcast of the new year 2021. This is Talking Tropes with a special Tardis Tropes Doctor Who New Year's special. I'm Hannah,
David.
and we've got a
And
special guest with us back today.
I'm Victor.
Welcome,
Yeah,
Victor.
quickly becoming one of our favorite companions for Doctor Who recaps. We just watched Revolution of the Daleks, of the New Year's special, and the first episode, I guess, of season 13. What did you guys think in general?
Not the worst thing Chris Chibnall's ever written.
Definitely
In
not.
fact, the best thing Chris Chibnall's ever written is my take.
I don't
Easily.
I don't.
I don't
It's it's definitely his best credit where he's the sole writer on
yeah.
it. But I
yeah,
really liked, the Jadoon episode. I thought that had something going for it. And
yeah,
then,
Jadoon is fun.
he co-wrote some other ones that I thought were fine. But but I think that there is like some workable stuff in here, and it's not the worst Dalek episode either.
It's one of the best Dalek episodes. I'm gonna defend this episode, guys.
But I think a lot of the like Twitter buzz is basically that it derives a lot of stuff from Victory of the Daleks, the season 5 episode, which I think is just a total positive because that happens to be my favorite Dalek episode. I know it's not a very popular episode, but I don't know why. So I'm glad that this one is taking some cues from there. But it's also got its own identity in a lot of ways. So let's just jump right into a recap, right?
Yeah. How do we kick things off, David?
With a Star Wars title drop thing long ago, far, far away. Oh, but it's actually a long time ago. It was 2019, and far away is Cheltenham, wherever they are.
I thought it was cute. It was like something that actually made me smile. Like
they're still using that like impact bold font. Looks like
they like the
like
big
doing
chonky.
A lolcat.
Yeah, it's just a touch campy, but Doctor Who's always been campy.
Right, no, it's not the campiness. It's just like it's such a common font that it's like you don't expect to see it on Doctor Who. So we're going back to Resolution. Which do you guys still remember this episode? It's been 2 years.
Yeah.
I remembered so little. I even forgot most of what had happened in the Timeless Child and had to be like, wait, why is the Doctor
I definitely went back
angsty?
and rewatched. I had forgotten that the cliffhanger was that she got arrested. I thought they were going to introduce the arrest in this episode, and
I totally forgot.
Yeah, that was the season finale.
Yeah,
it's been a minute.
So to recap, for those of you guys who forgot, 2 years ago in the New Year's special Resolution, there was a Dalek that was stranded on Earth. It was woken up by a black light. It took control of a human host and then went to go contact some space Daleks. But then Ryan's dad had a special microwave that they used to melt steel, and then they teleported the Dalek inside into the sun. So that happened. And then a year later, or more than a year later, for the season 12 finale, the Doctor had just found out that she is the Timeless Child, that she has had her memory wiped at some point. Then she ostensibly kills the Master and a bunch of cyber Time Lords using a death particle. Go figure. And then she leaves, jumps into a different TARDIS, leaves that TARDIS on a random planet disguised as a tree, and then gets in her TARDIS, at which point a bunch of Jadoon just teleport on and say, you're under arrest for all the crimes. You're going to prison for life. And then she's in an asteroid with bars over a window that's literally just leading out into the vacuum of space. And that's where we left it last time.
And that's kind of where we pick up.
To be honest, the entire time I was watching the episode, I didn't know whether they actually directly led into it or whether we were just to assume that she got arrested after the events of the Timeless Child. Because I had no memory of what David just described.
it doesn't really feel like it happened, and also they never really explain why it happened exactly. They sort of allude to the fact that because of the events of Fugitive of the Jadoon, the encountering the Jadoon as both the Doctor and Dr. Ruth, the old Doctor who we don't have a number for, that somehow led them to finding her in that TARDIS and getting arrested. But there's no explanation of like how they were able to find her but not find any of the previous generations. It's literally been possibly an infinite number of regenerations since Dr. Ruth was a fugitive. So why are they just finding her now?
It could be, right, that Dr. Ruth is like a known like threat to the Jadoon, like a terrorist or whatever that's actively being hunted by the Jadoon, but they don't know that that's the Doctor. And so now they seen that like maybe the Doctor's not even in jail.
They called her the Doctor.
Oh, they do call her the Doctor?
Yeah,
but maybe it's just the understanding that they're the same person now, like just specifically.
Right? Maybe they didn't connect the idea as like, oh, this Doctor is in like the Time Lord CIA, and this Doctor is just like a random different person named the Doctor who also has a TARDIS. But I don't know. Regardless, we don't really get an explanation for that. We're there. But there's some stuff that happened in the past that we didn't hear about. So you want to explain what happened to that Dalek shell, Victor?
So like this is the thing that actually makes the episode good, in my opinion, which is the actual premise is one of like the best political Dalek episodes that's been made. And that's that basically what happens is that like the capitalists, played by like this ex-Donald Trump guy, and like this like ambitious politician team up, and they're like, well, look, the world's getting fucked, like there's all this social unrest, so we have to embrace a little bit of authoritarianism. We have to make these giant Dalek robot gears. And so it's like, look, it's fascism under a new name. But then of course it takes off its mask halfway through and it's like real fascism. And I won't get into spoilers, but that is a great political metaphor for what's actually about to happen. And the fact that Chris Chibnall, the guy who has like the Amazon is good and you should never fight back episode, has that as his premise for a Dalek episode is legitimately interesting and taking like the Dalek Nazi metaphor in a new direction that's actually relevant to the modern political context.
Right. I mean, I think that reading is totally fair. I don't know how much of it was intentional and how much of it was
I think it was pretty
product
intentional.
Of the premise.
The scene where they're seeing the riot gear, like that scene is fucking great.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, clearly, like the premise is, what if the government used Dalek technology to build defense drones to stop protesters, to create like this law and order, somewhat authoritarian, and it's kind of neutered, like you were saying, because they have replaced the lasers with like a water cannon. And replaced,
but they still have like sonic detonators, that blast out
a sonic dispersal
but
mechanism, which is something that cops use right now.
But that's part of what makes it so brilliant, is that like it doesn't go straight to killing the people, but it's about like how they're willing to tacitly embrace fascism, like this authoritarian thing. And sure, it's just initially riot gear, but then we see, not to give anything away, but it escalates.
Right. Now, I think that the actual connective tissue between resolution and revolution is a little weak. They basically they established that like somehow Jack Robertson knew about this thing, but they don't really explain how.
She tipped him off. The prime minister lady.
But they don't really explain like why does the government like coming to pick up this Dalek shell in the first place?
I don't know.
I guess
Unit,
I missed that part.
Question mark?
It wasn't Unit because Unit was shut down, but they like send a truck to like pick it up and like, I don't know, take it to like a dump. And then there's like a murderer in a food truck.
How did he know he was gonna stop there to get tea? Like,
maybe he always stops there to get tea.
But then how did he not recognize that it's not the same lady? I don't know. I mean, it's just
maybe it was the same lady. Maybe this is a long-term.
This is a long con.
Or maybe they paid her off, or maybe she didn't know it was poisoned. Or no, she did because she dragged the body off the road. But in any case, they get this Dalek and they automatically know what its practical application will be. That it's to use as a murderous robot. So we've got the return of Jack Robertson from Spiders, and he's definitely better used. He's
so much better used
than in Spiders. But I still feel like he isn't a very good commentary on Donald Trump specifically.
No, I think
you're right, Victor, that he's a better commentary on like Capitol.
Which is, they specifically mentioned that he no longer has like these political ambitions at the beginning. So I think.
Well, but then we come back.
We come back to it at the end. But I mean, I do think that he does operate more as like not just a Trump allegory, but more of a capitalist, like an ambitious power player kind of guy,
right? And somebody who's colluding with the technology secretary, which I don't know, is that a real position in
I think they say they just created it or something,
right? So I'm guessing it's fictional so that they don't come across as like we're saying this about a specific politician and then they get sued, but that's fine. So that's the introduction of Joe Patterson, who is this future prime minister candidate, who, in order to establish herself as the law and order candidate, is going to create these drones with Jack Robertson's company.
At no cost to the taxpayer, David.
Yeah,
because we're just trying them out. It's a
public-private partnership.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I mean those things definitely happen. And then we have the introduction of Leo Ragazzi, who is like Jack Robertson's protege / bought up his startup. He's like a genius. So then they go to like a role play of a civil unrest. So they like hired a bunch of actors to like get sprayed with water cannons.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works. They probably could have just used it as, they could have probably just had an actual riot and demonstrated it there. But I guess the idea is that then it would get out, but it gets out anyway.
Yeah.
So
it's still secret and proprietary. So you hire a bunch of actors with NDAs who are desperate for money and they're willing to get shot with water cannons, and it's fine.
Right. Now, I mean, there are some like lines in here that I like kind of raised my eyebrow at, which was like, it's the security equivalent of the iPhone.
Oh my God.
In what way?
And that is really overpriced. Like,
I mean, and it's really dumb. But I think what they mean is just that it's going to come and revolutionize like all security going forward, like the security drone.
I get what it means, but it's just like it was just like an eyebrow raise. And
listen, the dialogue here is not great. Like, it's still clearly Chris Chibnall.
Yeah, I mean, it's still Chris Chibnall, but I'm just saying, for Chris Chibnall, this was an interesting. Like, it kept my attention.
Yeah,
it had interest, like it had things that I actually could think about, like both like conflicts for the characters and like political and like messaging.
For me, I think that was the strongest element of this this special, was the fact that there is actual like interesting character dynamics to deal with, and that like they were actually talking to each other and having conversations, and that like the doctor was involved in those conversations, and it wasn't just the companions like gossiping about the doctor behind her back or something. Like
it's the doctor gets like a sit down with Yaz and then a sit down with Ryan on two different occasions. Not really with Graham so much, but she's had other awkward conversations with Graham about his cancer and whatnot. What has the doctor been up to while in prison?
Just saying hello to old fan favorite villains like the Weeping Angels, the Pating. Everybody loves the Pating.
It's weird to like arrest a Pating where it's not really intelligent. It's just like a mindless eating machine.
You know, like, what you did.
You're under arrest for the crime of eating a spaceship.
Yeah.
And also a Sycorax, and there was an Ood, and there was a Silence.
I don't remember that.
There was a Silence?
Yeah, I don't remember the Silence.
She goes up to it. I get it. You're making a joke. But, the doctor goes up to the Silence and says, "I forgot you were here." little joke. And someone else is locked up in there with her, but we don't see him until next time. But Jack Harkness is also there.
It's Jackie boy. Jack is back. A Jack attack.
And the doctor's not really like trying to escape or anything. We don't see any escape attempts. It's just like she's just got a routine. She gets up, she exercises.
She reads Harry Potter to herself.
Yeah, she reads Harry Potter to herself.
Which, like, weird in the current climate, honestly.
But actually, really unsurprising to me.
I mean, so unsurprising.
She is such a, like, I'm a Hermione.
Yeah,
I would be a Ravenclaw. I'm the smart one. And also, it's like, she's the type of person who, like, talks about all politics in the form of Harry Potter. It's like, oh, you're being such a Voldemort right now.
Read another book, Doctor.
Yeah.
That's who she is. I think it's a great characterization.
Oh my god.
And then what are our companions doing?
Moping?
Yeah.
Moping. There's some mopes going on. So they still have this TARDIS that they took home, which is just like a random TARDIS, and it disguises itself as a house that Yaz has been living in, but not in like the living quarters, just like in a sleeping bag in the main TARDIS console room. And she's just got her, what do you call it? Conspiracy board of just random pieces of paper taped to the walls.
Yeah.
Like, what could possibly be on there?
But, like, I love that she's the one who's, like, trying to fix the TARDIS or something, where, like, isn't Ryan the one who was supposed to be like, I worked at a mechanic shop, so I know how to fix things.
Well,
like,
he only ever did that, like, once, but the real thing is that Yaz is not trying to, like, pilot the TARDIS right now. She's trying to solve the mystery of, like, where the Doctor went. So that is a detective thing. That is a cop thing. And I like that they're characterizing her as the more mystery-oriented one, because the Doctor isn't actually that curious.
Right.
Mystery-seeking in this iteration. So they're very concerned about Yaz. They're like, you're obsessed with finding the Doctor. You missed New Year's.
How could you in this year, 2020?
So, like, by missing New Year's, obviously she also missed, like, Christmas. Yeah. And yet they're more concerned that she would miss New Year's Day.
Because New Year's is the superior holiday, David.
Everybody loves New Year's, okay?
Chris Chibnall, the secular globalist man, trying to destroy Christmas.
He is a top general in the war on Christmas. It has been confirmed.
But yeah, she's not there. She's been gone 10 months. Which is
like not even that long in Doctor Who time. Like, Matt Smith doesn't see like Amy and Rory for like 2 years at a time, and everyone's just like fine with it,
Right, but it's 10 months that they, I guess, didn't know whether he was alive or dead, which they did that back in season 2, I think it was, or maybe it was season 1 with Rose being gone, and like she would be gone for like a year.
Oh yeah. I think that's season 1.
And her family would be freaking out. So I don't know. I like that that's a conflict, but it just feels like it's a very underdeveloped conflict.
But I think what it's like, it is underbaked, but I think what it does serve is like this interesting conflict resolution of like how different people react to it, and it gets them to realistic, like it provides, I guess, somewhat plausible opening for them to reconsider like their relationship in the TARDIS team and like being in the Doctor, and that's something that's actually explored in the episode. So even though it's definitely a little bit like rushed, I think the ideas are all still there.
Right. Well, this is my point, is like, so clearly they're doing something here, because spoiler alert, there's going to be a shakeup in the companion dynamic at the end of this episode. But they're establishing that, like, okay, Graham and Ryan have gotten on with their lives. They're going out and like researching this conspiracy about a Dalek being used for a drone, but Yaz like can't let go of the Doctor, and so she's obsessed. So that's setting up like how this episode ends.
Right.
But it's just like, I would be more interested to see like over the course of a year, like what were Graham and Ryan doing? Like, what was their process? They complain about like not having the tools that they're used to, like the psychic paper or the TARDIS, to be able to solve these mysteries on their own.
It's interesting though, because I feel like in the past, so much of like what the Doctor supposedly like teaches their companions is that like you don't necessarily need fancy tools to solve these mysteries and like be a hero, like, you know, looking back at when Donna and 10 like reconnect, you know, she's out there doing
I was definitely making connections in my head to Partners in Time. Like, you could have had a great scene where, you know, the doctor comes back while they're in the middle of their investigation,
right,
and, you know, interrupts it and throws it off or something.
And
that could be cute.
I mean, I think if you want to like be generous to Chibnall, his companions, I think he aims to make them like more grounded than like the standard companion. So I think it makes sense that like they've been gone for 10 months. They're not like saving the world yet, but they're just like kind of like, man, it sucks that we used to save. It sucks that we used to save the world, and now we're just kind of doing stuff here.
Yeah.
It's interesting though, because I think though the political overtones in this were so just like absolutely opaque and like on the surface. Like, I know you really like them, Victor, but I found them just like a little over the top and on the nose personally.
But the thing is, like, the social commentary doesn't necessarily need to be subtle. This is Doctor Who. I mean, like, I think I think the idea that like what we're seeing, like, there's this crisis that everyone's seeing of like social unrest, and the politicians and the capitalists, like the rich people, will like totally back just like new methods of like putting down protests, enforcing order. Like, politicians will run law and order, capitalists will fund it, and like that's actually a fairly relevant message. And like we are seeing like these dollar things exist in real life. Like there are these new and like increasingly problematic like riot control mechanisms that are going on. Like,
and I don't want to jump too far ahead, but my issue with that representation is that they don't show like the impact on real people or the negative reaction that these things would obviously be receiving. I mean, they'd be receiving positive reinforcement from like rich people and fascists and right wingers and centrists for sure. But you want to see like, how are the people on the ground like reacting to this, like saying like you can't put like, you know, they'd just be mad that there was like cameras watching them at all times, let alone cameras that can like think for themselves and call the police on you,
shoot a water cannon at you
with water cannons or arrest you. Like,
I also do think that's kind of interesting that like the defense of like these bots is like, oh, they run on AI, so like they're perfect, but then it's like, oh, but this AI is also ultimately being controlled by like Dalek, which is like this thing in technology where like, oh, AI is unbiased, but AI is also like
programmed by people
learning.
With biases.
It's programming by people with biases, and it's learning databases that are reflective of our own societal biases. And so like that thing about it,
I think the metaphor works.
They really stress the AI element of it, and I think that's interesting as well.
I think the metaphor is perfectly functional. I take issue with the fact that we're not seeing it like through character eyes. You know, we're not seeing that unfold in the plot. The main characters are very disconnected from that metaphor, and their interaction with it is not metaphorical in any way.
I agree to some extent, but not to get too far ahead, but later I want to discuss like how I think Ryan's character arc in this episode does pretty strongly tie back to the political situation.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Let's continue.
Right, so the doctor comes back then with or do they get arrested first? I forget which happens.
No, the next thing that happens is the breakout, isn't it?
Okay, yeah. Jack Harkness shows up in prison and breaks the doctor out through a series of somewhat convoluted, if also somehow very straightforward tactics.
He just pulls out a device and says, "This is the breakout of jail device."
Orb.
And then they jump in a big hamster ball and start running through walls. And then he's like, "Also, I had a vortex manipulator up my ass for 20 years."
Yeah.
Which is funny to me because it's very reminiscent of that scene in Pulp Fiction with.
I have one question. Do you guys think that Jack Harkness has more chemistry with this doctor or with David Tennant?
With 10 for sure, and then I think he even had better chemistry with 9.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's hard for me to answer that question just because like Jack Harkness and like John Barrowman, is that his name?
Barrowman, yeah.
Yeah. like he just has so much natural charisma, and he's like a very like big personality that it's not even the chemistry with people. He's just so big. But I do think that thinking back on it, like reason why 10 in specific has good chemistry with him is because 10 is also like a very big actor. Like he has a huge personality. He hams up like scenes as well. So I think like part of the problem with my take on like the 13 and Barrowman chemistry, especially in the beginning, is that the Doctor just being rescued, like they have no autonomy once again. Like they're just kind of like, and Jack's like the big dashing hero who's coming to like save the Doctor, and like he's the one that's doing all the work, and the Doctor just kind of like, what is going on?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and like I think it can be like somewhat explained by the fact the Doctor's having like a personal identity crisis, but we've seen the Doctor get beaten down so many times, and like they always get back up. Like Heaven Sent, holy shit, this Doctor was broken down after the first couple of days. Like, so I think there's some unfortunate stuff going on with the gender dynamics, unfortunately.
It also just doesn't feel like a real follow through on the prison subplot. Like, okay, you know, she was in there for 20 years. She's been in a prison for 1 billion years. She's been in a prison, you know, for probably other lengths of time.
Right.
It's just like she could do 20 years, standing on her head.
Sleeve. Right.
The only believable thing is just that it's such a shock, this timeless child thing, that it fundamentally like broke her on like a level that no other thing in the show so far has broken her. But we've seen her go through a ton of like ridiculous
identity crisis.
Yeah. So I don't know.
She says later, like, oh, I was spending those 20 years just thinking about who I really am.
Yeah.
So it's like
and came to zero answers.
Yeah, that's also true.
20 years.
I mean, I've been thinking more about like the Timeless Child twist itself, and I keep coming back to like it's even more pointless than I thought it was. Because like the whole thing that we've established with regeneration is like you don't keep the same personality, you don't keep the same, biology, you don't keep the same face, you don't keep the same. The only thing you keep is the name and your memories. And so if you wipe the memory, it's like it's a different person. You might as well be talking about like in a past life, I murdered the chancellor of this country. Like, well, okay, it's a past life. It's not you.
You didn't have a chance to learn from it or anything.
Right.
Like you have you
don't have any responsibility for it. It's literally not you in any way.
I mean, at the same time, I do think that it would be a pretty big identity crisis because, like, the obviously the identity crisis that happens with each incarnation is like a thing that happens and it resolved in like each episode or like the beginning of each Doctor's tenure, right? But like also that's something that's like built into your framework of like who you are if you're a Time Lord person. Like you're born with the idea of regeneration. You get used to it culturally. Now suddenly you're like, oh, but actually I'm not even a Time Lord. I'm from some other dimension. I don't know what I am.
I mean, like that's the real twist. Yeah. Like it has nothing to do with having previous lives. It's just like, oh, I'm not from Gallifrey.
So,
I mean,
like, and I think that's mostly what she's struggling with.
Yeah,
she's kind of vague about the whole thing, but we'll get to that I think a little bit later.
Yeah.
So after the Doctor breaks out and is back on the TARDIS, we cut back to the fam who are trying to just like approach Jack Robertson because they saw a video of him with the Dalek, and they're like, "You have a Dalek," and he's like, "What's a Dalek?" "You know, a Dalek." "What?" And then a bunch of security guys come out and they're like, "You're under arrest."
Yeah.
It's like, why were you not with him? Like, why were you like hiding?
Right. Why did you let these
nearby?
People? Right, talk to him for this long. If they were trying to kill him, like they would have been done and out of there long before now.
It's a little sloppy, but it's a whatever. I didn't.
It's fine.
It's a fun interaction. I mean, it's great when he's like, "Oh God, you guys again."
It reminded me of the lawyer from Sunny.
Like,
how do you people keep coming into my life?
But then they go back and recoup at the base, which I guess is Ryan and Graham's house, and then suddenly the Doctor's there, and it's like, I arrived back just when I left, right? No, you're 10 months late.
10 months.
And then Ryan says, "Well, it's done now." So, and that kind of sums up my feelings about the conflict.
Well, I mean, I I think in part, like, yeah, because like David, we talked about this over text very briefly, but you said something along the lines of like, if you know, Yaz has abandonment issues after 10 months, like that's like whatever. But it's like that, not that believable. But I think it's not just like the abandonment issues, like the fact that like their life and like the quality of life they're living and the type of life they're living is like directly becomes so dependent on the doctor that like if you take that away and they have to realize like I am so dependent on this one person who is like not exactly very consistent. And like Jack Harkness had that conversation with Yaz where it's like you may or may not get to choose when your time with the doctor's up. Like the doctor does sometimes just leave people like and
right,
so
or you could die.
Or you could die, right? But I think it's that kind of realization of like, oh shit, this isn't just like all good times. Like this will eventually end, and like I don't necessarily have a say in when it ends.
Right. It just seems
just
odd
like everything in life, though, man.
She can't cope with that. Like when she's only been traveling with the doctor for like a year, and then
like
she's back home. It's like, well, yeah, you were off on holiday. Now it's time to get back to the real world. I don't know.
Yeah, but I think if you're traveling with the doctor, you might believe that the holiday can go on forever, and like even if it's not something that logically makes sense, it's like I totally buy that that's like would be a feeling.
And I mean, I think that's pretty consistent with what we've seen from previous companions all the way back to the beginning of New Who. You know, it's like traveling in the TARDIS is the coolest, best thing in the world, and if you can't do it, you're really sad.
All right. I just think it's kind of weak because it you know, it's not like a consequence of the doctor like screwing up or something. It's just like she just pressed a button and showed up 10 months late.
Yeah, I agree that like they being mad at the doctor because like of the mess up is like somewhat silly, but I think it's more so that they're just mad at the situation, that they're realizing like the nature of their dynamic is not as equal, and as secure as they would like.
So the next thing that we do is we're all back together again, so we got to just go after the Daleks, and of course the doctor has a great line, which is, it looks like a Dalek, but it can't be a Dalek unless it is a Dalek, which is a very doctory kind of line that I really enjoyed. So they go to Osaka because they've detected some kind of energy reading that is Dalek. It's like every Chibnall episode. You just detect an energy reading and then you go somewhere.
Also, just as a quick Chris Chibnall ding alert, there is so much just like the villains explaining their evil plots in this, like directly to the people with no reason to do so.
Yeah, there's a lot of exposition.
Like the doctor's just like, why are you doing this? And they're like, oh, well, I'm doing it for these reasons. Do you understand? And it's like, you didn't need to explain this to her. You could have just shot her.
I think there is like a throwaway line that kind of lampshades it, where it's like Ryan and Graham are just like, yeah, when we confront people, they just don't tell us our plans. We need the doctor.
Yeah. So like, that is true. There is that line.
Also the weirdness of like this whole conflict of this episode is that it all stems from this one weird, like almost throwaway scene where Jack Robertson is talking to Leo Ragazzi and he's just alone in a lab, like by himself.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I didn't tell anybody I was doing this, but I just cloned like some random cells that I found in the middle of this this alien robot. And then he's like, all right, could you incinerate it, please? I mean, that would be the smart thing to do with a foreign alien substance we know nothing about. And then he says, this is why people don't like experts. So he's a metaphor for bad politics and also for capital.
So we now have Dalek clones, and turns out that that's what's being grown in the warehouse in Osaka. And
but
meanwhile,
the 3D printed Dalek drones are being made in London.
Yeah.
So they've split up the group. Yaz went with
Jack.
And
they have some nice conversations. It's not a bad dynamic, the two of them.
No, it's not bad at all. They talk about, what it's like to be left by the doctor, because Jack has waited thousands of years, or hundreds at least, for the doctor to show up. Whereas Yaz is like 10 months. But the point is, Jack has some fun lines. He pulls out his squareness gun. Expects Yaz to be super impressed, and then Yaz is like, "You need a lot of praise, don't you?" And he's like, "Do I?"
So, do you guys think they are building up a Dr. Yaz romance? Because the Captain Jack thing was also just like very much, it wasn't just like about being abandoned. It was about like, he's like, you particularly seem very upset about this. I also was particularly upset about this because I also have like a somewhat like vaguely vaguely romantic sexual interest in this person, and like it sucks when they reject you. Yeah, it's not nice. Like that's kind of the subtext of the conversation to me.
Well, I don't want to be the person who, you know, doesn't recognize subtext, but I'm usually blind to it.
I mean, I'm my shipper heart was pounding a little, thinking,
right.
oh,
but
this
remember
is
when we had a whole
conversation?
Remember when we had a whole conversation last season about like, oh, they're doing something with Yaz and Ryan for sure. They definitely are.
Right, but then they didn't.
They didn't. But there's.
I think they're queer baiting the shit out of everyone. I don't think they'll actually follow through, but I think they're gonna commit to the queer baiting, and we'll see.
I think that basically they're going to continue to avoid any direct conversations about love, romance, sexuality pertaining to the Doctor because they're afraid of accidentally objectifying her.
But
treating her differently.
I could see them leaning into it a bit more, especially because like with Doctor Who, it's not like you ever actually have to confirm the shipping. I mean, like.
Yeah,
the Dr. Clara stuff has a bunch of evidence like that you could ship it, but like it's never explicitly stated. I mean,
lots of people ship it, David.
Lots of people
I know it's just, but it's not canon though.
No, I mean it's not just that. I mean, like the subtext is largely there. I mean, like a lot of people involved with the production, including Moffat and Capaldi and Jenna Coleman, have said that it could be like very well intended to be interpreted somewhat romantically. It's not necessarily. But that's the thing. You don't have to cross the line because you can get the same thing in Doctor Who. Like the point is, these people have a special kind of interesting bond, and so like whether it's really romantic or sexual, it's like what does that even mean at a certain extent? Like
it's certainly intimate.
Yes, I agree with that. But whereas I think Russell really liked to portray the Doctor as sexy and as a flirt, and Moffat also enjoyed having people flirt with the Doctor.
Yeah.
This Doctor is they're a little more, you know, they're hesitant to portray her in any kind of flirting situation.
But I think from my experience with the lesbian community, they're just gonna be like, they're two oblivious lesbians, hooray! Like that's
I fully support that interpretation. I'm just saying I wonder if Chibnall has the balls, you know.
I mean, who knows? I honestly think we're more likely to get a lesbian Doctor before we're gonna get like a male gay Doctor.
Yeah, I could see them doing the Yaz thing, I mean, especially because you don't have to actually commit to it. You can just like kind of play it up, and it's like,
right?
Yeah, they have a very intimate bond, and it's very special, and it's like they have, like, here's I guess what I'm saying, like the Doctor and Clara have romance scenes, even if they are not in it. Like, regardless of whether they are romantic, they have romance scenes, which is what shippers really want. So Yaz and the Doctor can easily have romance scenes.
Totally. I agree. So basically the evil Theresa May politician stand-in is kind of like, hey, let's build these faster and release them to the public. And then like you see people taking like selfies with them, like, oh wow, look at this new cute like police brutality vehicle, hooray. And everyone's loving it. But then of course the actual Daleks get teleported inside them, and they all go crazy and start murdering people, and they murder the prime minister lady, and we get some great Dalek shit, you know, just exterminate all over the place, some fun lines,
right?
Some fun
I mean, we skipped like a major like character beat that I kind of wanted to go back to, because it's you know, Yaz and Jack have broken into this Dalek cloning facility, which I guess you can just do. Like, no one's going to like look at a work order to build a, you know, alien cloning facility and go, what do you want me to build? They're just gonna do it because it says it on the work order. And the Dalek had connected to the hive mind internet, whatever.
Yeah.
Took control of the
neural net.
So they go in there and they find, you know, what was his name? Leo. He's taken over by this this Dalek that he was supposed to have incinerated, but he messed up. And so
And
they're there,
face-hugged him.
and they're being attacked by all of these Daleks who are waking up and like jumping out of their cages. And they look pretty good, you know, kind of CGI, like jumping animation. But at the same time, it's like the Doctor and Graham and Ryan are doing this like other interrogation of Jack Robertson, going like, you made a Dalek, you stupid idiot, you made a Dalek. And he's like, I don't know what that means, just show me. And so then they get in the TARDIS, and he's like, what is this? Are we in a TARDIS? It's bigger on the inside, whatever. And then they start to fly to Osaka, and it takes them like 4 minutes. And there's literally a computer comes on and says like, it's 4 minutes to Osaka. And I don't think that that's like continuity breaking. I've just never seen it take time for them to get somewhere. Have you ever seen New Who?
No, they've pretty much been able to, unless they're like physically flying the TARDIS like through a city or something.
Yeah,
like
instantaneous.
Usually instantaneous.
Right. I mean, they're going somewhere that's in the same time zone on the same planet, and it takes them 4 minutes. So I don't think that that breaks continuity. But what it does mean is that now, canonically, every time that they teleported in a previous episode, when it was like a really big action scene, like, come on, Clara, we're going there right now. And then it teleports and they're right there. There was actually like a 4 minute, just like dead silence where they're just like, any jokes?
The Doctor just always overhypes himself. He's like, come on, we gotta do this right now. Okay, well, I guess we don't have to do it right now. We got like 4 minutes.
Want some popcorn? I can make some popcorn real fast. Takes 2 minutes. We got 2 minutes to eat.
So that's really funny to me. But during that little lull, that's when the Doctor gets her scene with Ryan.
Yes.
She's like, you look really great in a hat. And
he's like,
most of it.
You abandoned me. And she's like, yeah, sorry about that. And he's like, actually, it's kind of fine. I like my friends a lot more.
but really, it's the point of that scene is that Ryan like grills the Doctor about her emotional state, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, it's also just like about like the fact that it's like, hey, this is I want you to open up to some extent, because you always keep us in the dark, and I don't really like that dynamic. Like, let's be pals. And like I think like the Doctor being like at the end of the conversation being like, thank you for being my friend is actually kind of a good beat, because it's just like, this is someone the Doctor's actually being vulnerable and opening up. And again, like I think that's not a bad story to tell. I think it's a little bit potentially problematic that it's like happening so much more under a female Doctor, like under Jodie. Like she is like constant, like there's more of a sense of like, especially in this episode, like the Doctor is so broken and like they need to be like reassured by the companions and saved by Jack. And so like,
but
it's just a different kind of angst
that happens.
I guess
it's still angst. It's just a different kind of angst.
It's more so with the Jack thing, like just like that rescue scene kind of left a bad taste in my mouth because it's just like so undoctory. But it's like whatever. I think it's fine to also have like the Doctor be tested in like losing confidence in themselves kind of way.
Yeah.
All right. So now we finally reunited everybody. The Doctor shows up with Yaz and like saves Yaz and Jack from these Daleks that are attacking. And then Leo comes out and he's like, all right, let me explain my whole evil plan right now.
For no reason.
Which happens many episodes of Doctor Who, but it just feels like it's every episode of the Chibnall era. So it just gets a little repetitive. But there's a great line where the I think it's Jack Robertson says like, you must be joking. And then the Dalek says, Daleks do not joke. So then like almost immediately after saying Daleks do not joke, the Doctor says to one of the Daleks, you don't have to kill Leo. You can keep him alive. There's no reason to kill him. And then the Dalek's like, yes, I don't have to kill him. And yet I will.
Yeah.
So that's like clearly a joke. I don't know.
I don't know if it's a joke.
No. It's just like correct.
It's ironic, but like
I think that's a joke. You know, that's Dalek's sense of humor. It's like I don't have to kill him, and yet here I will.
Yeah, it's just like a Dalek talking to the Dalek, like, so I could have not killed him, but then I killed him. And the Dalek's going like
Dalek humor. So once again, we have UV radiation rejuvenating all of the Daleks, and then they teleport into their little robot suits. And so then we get to finally the scene with the drone Daleks actually having lasers built in. And again, I'm just thinking like, okay, so you put on the work order that these supposedly non-lethal drones have deadly laser beams in their arms. And it's like, okay, I mean, sure. I guess like if I was part of the engineering team and I had to buy components for a laser gun, like I guess I would just be like, well, maybe it's like a harmless laser.
That's why they keep production segmented so no one asks questions like that, David.
Right, exactly. It's the Fordism that
the
really...
isolationism of capitalism keeps people from asking questions.
And the 3D printing, which is, it takes away so many steps in the process.
Right. So now the Daleks are going crazy.
Yeah.
And the only way to stop them, the Doctor figures, is to call in the other Daleks, who are the pure Daleks. Yeah. And they'll get rid of the infestation of these gross human Dalek hybrids.
Yeah, and this happens almost like once per Dalek episode. Like it happens in Evolution of the Daleks, where you have these like half Time Lord, half Dalek things that they try to kill. And then it happens again in Victory of the Daleks, which is like where a lot of the comparisons come in, that you have these like Daleks that are lost in time and the systems no longer recognize them as Daleks, so they have to pretend to be human-built drones in order to rejuvenate themselves. This is like more or less the same thing, and Victory of the Daleks, like I said, is my favorite Dalek episode, which I know no one likes, but I really like the idea of them pretending to be nice. But we don't have a lot of that in this episode, of them like pretending to be drones. Basically, as soon as they're activated, they're out there killing people, which is, I think, a little weaker, but it's fine. Okay, so
it's either way, it is basically state-controlled violence towards its citizens.
All right, I think that it would be more engaging if we had more of a contrast as opposed to just jumping right into, because we know the Daleks are coming, so we just jump right into the Daleks killing people, which just, it kind of means that like the plot sort of jumps from 0 to 100 in like 2 seconds.
Right, because I think the use of Daleks as like police state tools is just supposed to be like, oh, Doctor Who's saying ACAB, like, look, we did it. We're not. Which is why I'm saying I think it works
metaphorically, but I don't think that they build it up enough in the actual plot. It's like the metaphor works, the plot is, it's more like you just have to kind of ignore the plot happening in order to get to the metaphor.
I think some of the things are definitely contrived, and like the Dalek explains his plot and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, fundamentally, what I like about this episode primarily is the metaphor that I'm trying to.
Right. Yeah. No, I get that.
Yeah. For sure.
So we have the Donald Trump making a deal with the Daleks and going on the Dalek ship and saying like, "Hey, look, I can help you find the Doctor." So then the Doctor's like, "Oh no, they're gonna come find me if I don't do something quick, because we've got the, we've blown up all of the drone Daleks with these space Daleks that I contacted, but now we have all these space Daleks. It's very much a, old lady who swallowed a fly situation, where you've just created a bigger problem. But then, of course, we have the famous Doctor solution, which she always uses, which is just blow them up with bombs.
Yeah. She tricks them into the bonus Tardis she still had from the Timeless Child and blows them all up there. But before she does that, there is a lot of like useless running around that some of the companions did in the Dalek spaceship.
No, that wasn't useless. They were planting bombs, just like they did for the Cybermen and just like they did for for Branskor Kolos, I think, had bombs. There's bombs everywhere. It's bombs all the way down. She loves a bomb. So I liked that they kept consistent with her character, that the reason that she wanted the other Daleks, because they were easier to beat, because they have a big spaceship you can plant bombs on, and they do that and it works, but they save Jack Robertson anyway. And then the whole scene where she like has the fake TARDIS and tricks them all into it, and she's just like, "Hey guys," and then they all rush in, like not even one hangs back to like see what's going on, what the deal is, or to defend, the mothership or something. Literally, they just all rush in, and then she's like, "Psych, I was on a different TARDIS."
Yeah.
So as far as methods to beat the Daleks, I think this is maybe the dumbest of all of them.
It worked, whatever.
Fine. Especially because they do set up that she has a bag of Tardis. It's like whatever. Yeah. I think it's fine.
But it doesn't make any sense why they would all fly on there and then not be able to fly out. And if she could do that and like
she closed the door, David.
Yeah, she
closed the door. And Daleks don't have hands. They can't open doors. Duh.
Yeah, you idiot. Well, forgetting the first thing about Daleks. That may be
true, but then why are Daleks a threat? I just think Daleks, like, they're supposed to be a threat. In my opinion, my canon is that they're a threat because they're good strategists. They're smart. They're smart like the Doctor is smart, you know. But
but the Doctor's smarter. Because she knows how to close doors.
I mean, the Doctor is always going to be slightly smarter, but I mean, my favorite episode is Victory of the Daleks because that's the one where they actually do outsmart her. They accomplish all of their goals. They just fail at destroying the Earth.
I also think that's why Dalek stories tend to work better when you have a very limited number of Daleks. Is like a few Daleks can be smart. An army of Daleks need to be dumb in order to be able to defeat them. Like,
right. Well, not necessarily. I think you can do things that are clever in order to defeat them. Usually you don't. Usually when there's a lot of Daleks, either someone eats God and then turns them all into dust, or they flick a switch and then they all get sucked into a void. Or you literally, as you just beat them by being the best typist in Chiswick, and you type on the Dalek computer that they should all blow up.
So all I'm saying is like this one at least felt like more built up in that they introduced this thing from the previous episode. It's like the destruction of a TARDIS is like kind of a creative thing we haven't seen before. Like at least it's not literally they just have like a switch that they blow up. It's a somewhat creative.
It's the Dalek self-destruct switch. No, it's the self-destruct TARDIS.
I really disliked this.
I don't know. I didn't hate it. I thought it was fine.
Yeah, I didn't think
it was like it also doesn't have any like metaphorical or thematic significance. Nor does any interaction between the Doctor and the Daleks. There's never a point where she says to them like you have to leave because you're not. I don't know. So something to do with that people should be allowed to protest, in their own way, and that you're only provoking them to be more retaliatory.
No, exactly, because the plot has nothing to do with the political message that is like being made.
That's my point, and I miss. I
like
miss the Russell era where those things would have been really heavily
something that so I agree that like the Doctor and companion plot pretty much has almost nothing to do with like the greater political plot that's going on. That really is really centered around the Trump guy, and like the Doctor stuff is pretty isolated. But I do think there is somewhat of a through line in the conclusion to Ryan's character arcs.
Yes,
they save the day, right? They defeat the Daleks, and then like there's this rich guy who's like been who like created this whole problem, been manipulating society to create more Daleks and stuff like that. Like clearly a bad guy, and he just gets away scot-free. And so
and takes all the credit for saving the day.
And is now like actually way more politically popular because everyone thinks he saved the day. And like the Doctor doesn't do anything. And like maybe there's like legitimate reasons because like the Doctor is like a non-interventionist and they're just like a traveler or whatever. But like I think for Ryan, what he's seeing is like, look, the world's going to shit. And like the only way it's going to get better is if I personally, as like an average person, actually get involved in some way. And so I think that is a good conclusion to the political metaphor, which is like, look, the powers, the structures that be are only going to get more authoritarian and they will support these fascist things to put you down if you're a problem. The only way we can actually get out of this is if average people come together and fight back against it. And that I think
I totally agree with you, and I think that is the general message. I think it is undermined by the fact that instead of getting involved in like political organizing or anything like that,
I agree.
Ryan and Graham at the end are just like, now we're the Earth Scooby Gang. We gotta go around and solve alien mysteries. And it's like, wait, what?
And more importantly, he's gonna finally learn how to ride that goddamn bike from the woman who fell to Earth. And then they look out into the sun,
and he falls one last time.
It's his grandma.
The sun got in my eyes. So I do think that there's some weird stuff with the Ryan ending, which of course there's always going to be weirdness when companions leave because they can leave very suddenly. Contract disputes or just them wanting to move on to other projects. But in this case, like Ryan is piecing out and he's saying like, my mates need me, by which I think you're right. He means like the world needs me, which is a callback to Orphan 55,
Yeah.
where he or no, it wasn't Orphan 55. It was
it's the Dream
the
Lord
episode where
like
with the dreams.
The Dream God.
I can't remember the name of it.
Whatever.
Well, it was the dream episode, and his big nightmare that was haunting him was that he would return to Earth, and all of his mates would have been turned into Orphan 55 mutant dreg monsters.
Yeah.
So I like that this is a continuation of that he's afraid not of missing out on exploring space or missing out on his life, but of not protecting the people that he actually cares about on Earth.
Well, yes. you know what I think actually I really liked about Ryan's performance. That I really don't like Ryan's like as a character very much most of the time, but I actually felt he was effective in this one. And I think part of it is because I think he always kind of has this apathetic attitude. Yes. And in this one, it felt warranted because, like, to me, the most defining Ryan moment is like this conversation he's having with Graham at the end, where they're watching TV, and he's like, Graham's like, "Can you believe that the billionaire guy got away and he's now going to be president?" And Graham's like, "Yeah, I can." And it's just like he's done with the bullshit. Like he's like, for whatever reason, the doctor is incapable of solving these problems. Like the doctor let this person get away, and now they're back at it. So it's just like, yeah, he's done with it. Like, and so like that kind of apathy and like made more sense to me in this one. I felt like it worked a lot better.
Right. It's apathy, but I feel like, his character arc, at least, as it's been sort of summarized in his final episode, is kind of going from someone who doesn't really have a direction in life to being someone who feels a lot more sure of himself and knows what he kind of wants to do. And even if what he wants to do is just be on Earth.
Very vague.
Yeah,
it's still vague, but like as someone who recently went through a similar transition myself, just the idea of having like any direction to walk in is like so much more grounding and really can like be life-changing. So I certainly feel for Ryan.
Right. Yeah. I also when the doctor learns that Ryan's leaving, and then they turn to Graham like, "What do you want?" And he's like, I was really only just hanging out with you guys to hang out with my grandson. I think that's totally legitimate for his character. I don't think he would have a major connection to the doctor. So I don't know if they were considering keeping him on or whether he was going to leave first and then they kicked Ryan off for the same reason or whatever. But I think, I think this works for his character. It's weird to me that he didn't use cancer as an excuse, because we had that whole thing with the cancer that was totally dropped. Yeah, I thought it was weird that it didn't even come up in the conversation.
I think it would have been too late at this point. Like, if they had another season to develop it, maybe, but just unnecessary downer.
Yeah.
And then when Yaz says that she still wants to stay because she still wants to go, we have what I think is actually my favorite Jodie Whittaker line so far, which is she's just like, "I have two hearts, one happy, one sad," and I think that's so cute. Like, if this is going to be the doctor of cuteness and adorable one-liners and not cleverness and like badass throwaway lines, like I'm all for that. Like this line.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a good line.
It was, I don't know. It was interesting because I felt this sense of like relief, and part of that is just the fact that, oh my god, thank goodness we're down to like one companion and the doctor. We can like fucking focus and maybe get some actual character things going. So I think that was part of my relief at Graham and Ryan leaving. But another part is I was genuinely happy for Ryan and like felt like he had really taken these big steps, but the episode is just playing it like, this is really, really sad. Like, we should just
I don't know.
So
I think it's played as bittersweet.
Oh, no. All of the music was like, and Ryan's like, "Don't be too happy that I'm leaving," and she's like, that's when we get her very nice line. But I'd be like, "Ryan, you should be really happy that you're leaving. You seem like really confident in this decision. Like, I don't know, own it the way Martha owned it, Like, Martha owned her exit of the TARDIS. Like, Ryan is just sort of like, yeah, I think I really need to stay, but also, like, I don't know. It's a weird.
But I think that's in character for him. I don't know. I don't think that any of this is out of character, and that's the interesting thing, is that he felt so ill-defined for almost 2 whole seasons. And yet I do feel like this is fitting. And
but
I want to give props to that.
That's why I'm saying that like his character makes more sense because of the episode, because like he is so like blah and like apathetic, but just because he's figuring out his shit, and like at the end he's like, okay, like, and like there's a little bit of build up to it in the last season that he's like,
just like a normal bloke.
Yeah,
like,
he's just like, I don't know much.
He's your average millennial.
He reacts to it like how a normal person would react to meeting someone like Rosa Parks. And when he, solves like a crisis by throwing a bomb like a basketball, he's just like being like a normal bloke. And so then, he just wants to go be a normal bloke and hang out with his mates, but he got to have a cool adventure with his grandpa and got to be best friends with his grandpa. That's great.
Yeah.
So they do like a little group hug with a head press, where they're all like, and it's shot from below so you can see all their faces, and they're sad, but they're also, it's bittersweet. And then I guess we have our last scene with just Graham and Ryan trying to ride a bike and saying, we're gonna go stop aliens on Earth. We fought spiders, a sentient universe, Cybermen, the Skithra, the Morax, the mighty Pating. We can face anything. And it's like, all right.
Oh, and the doctor leaves them with psychic paper. So they can go anywhere.
That's a great little gift that she has to give them. So it's sort of like a souvenir.
Yeah. It's their handy dandy psychic paper gadget that they get to play with on Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, overall, definitely one of the better episodes of this era.
Mm-hmm.
But I do still think that it has a lot of flaws. And I think
for sure.
I think that the separation between, yes, Victor, the metaphorical, world of the story, and the representation for our real world, that works. But the plot is still, it has a lot of that Chibnall plotting, where things don't really flow naturally into the next thing, and we have gaps, and there's character beats that don't make sense, and the solving of the problem feels both too quick and too easy.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of issues like that for me here.
For sure. I would agree.
From you guys?
I agree. It's just this episode is like the first episode in a long time that like I actually like thought about after the credits rolled for like more than like maybe some of the last season also had it, but there's things to work with both in character and theming and like metaphor, whereas like the other ones just lack that.
Yeah. And I think also just on a pure enjoyability level, this one was like, it was fun to kind of watch. Like I wasn't like dragging my hand through my hair, like tearing it out, going, when will this shit be over?
I thought it dragged a lot pacing wise, but I definitely enjoyed it more than Woman Who Fell to Earth. Or Ranskor Kolos,
like,
for
or
example.
Spyfall.
These are like
Spyfall
I think kind of held my attention, but this one I just felt like it was kind of slow in the bits where, well, I mean, first of all, I just think like you could have cut out the whole prison thing and it wouldn't have changed anything.
Probably.
Like, it was a totally unnecessary thing just to have a cliffhanger at the end of the last episode.
But it's kind of fun.
And then you could have probably cut out the whole thing with calling in the space Daleks. Like, that wasn't really necessary to defeat these Daleks. It was just sort of like a stopgap or something. I don't know. I don't really understand why we called in the space Daleks, because it was very much a woman. There was an old woman who swallowed a fly, swallowed a spider to catch the fly, swallowed a bird to catch the spider.
But I think to some extent it's like, there's a woman who swallowed a fly, but that's kind of like the part of the metaphor is like supposedly like there was a government and economic system that like swallowed police.
What does that make?
And so.
What does that make the space Daleks then? Are they like jackbooted Antifa thugs?
No, they're not jackbooted Antifa thugs. What I think it is like, it's kind of like the idea that like, look, these like the people who are currently in power, both economically and politically, will make like short-term trade-offs to give like these authoritarians more power because like they also need to suppress their own things. But the fear is that like true fascists, like remove the impurity, will like come from that, and like really they'll be the ones that actually are like it's like
I don't know if the metaphor works entirely though.
I don't know if it works totally, but it's kind of interesting is all I'm saying.
I think we've stumbled across something with the Earth Daleks. They're fascist police officers, And then the space Daleks, those are jackbooted Antifa thugs.
No,
and the trade-off
I don't
by
think
siding with the
one,
jackbooted Antifa thugs is a bad trade-off.
One line that I thought was
problem.
One line I thought was perhaps a little insensitive was just like the line where, like, I understand why they're saying it, but they're just where they're like, oh yeah, these Daleks, they're like the SS of Daleks, and then like someone says like, but way more brutal, and it's like, well, everyone knows the SS is brutal. You don't need to make it like, we get it. I don't know. It's like
I thought they said the SAS of Daleks. I didn't know what that stood for.
No, they're the SS.
I guess they said SS.
But it's just like, yeah, they're even more brutal than that. But it's like maybe somewhat insensitive. Okay. But yeah, the point is they're very brutal.
All in the Gestapo to kill all of the police and then kill all the Gestapo.
Yeah, no, I mean that No, that metaphor completely falls apart. That metaphor, like the Doctor stuff, what the Doctor contributes to the plot makes no sense with the overall.
I think maybe Chibnall was afraid that by not including the original design Daleks, like fans would get mad.
Yeah, that might be part of it.
Who knows?
I agree. You're right.
It was a fun plot point, Jack was like, "Oh God, don't call in the SS Daleks."
Daleks, yeah. It's just like a weird.
That was fun. I just don't think it worked metaphorically.
Yeah, no,
it's
I
like
agree.
The plot,
I agree.
And then the representation of real life.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Those two things are very separate.
I agree.
Yeah,
makes sense.
On the whole, I'm excited for next season whenever it starts to exist with just the Doctor and Yaz. I'm really hoping.
Wrong. Fake news, Hannah.
Okay.
Not just the Doctor and Yaz. Immediately after the premiere of this episode, there was a sneak peek at the new companion played by, drumroll please, John Bishop, a comedian / game show host. White guy with a Liverpool accent.
Oh, Liverpool.
I hate it already.
So
I'm not excited at all anymore.
We just saw that he is going to show up. We don't know anything about his character or what role he plays or whether he's human or spaceman. We don't know.
I will only accept this companion if they are one of the Beatles.
Right. Well, I mean, I tried to watch some of his comedy, and it was like that early 2000s comedy that's like comedy that isn't comedy, but is just a guy with a voice saying normal things and observations. So we'll see what kind of role he plays. I don't know. He could be good.
No, but yeah, I also was hoping for just getting back to basics: one companion, one Doctor, and I'm a little.
Right, but you said last time like 1 or 2 companions would be fine.
I mean, it too could work. It's been done in the past, but I think
I really just want Chris to like really focus in. Like, let's do
but he may have been using the many companions as a good distraction for a lack of ability to write 1 or 2 companions. So we'll see how this plays out. We may be peeling off the layers of garbage to reveal just even more garbage.
I think I am somewhat optimistic for season 3 because Chibnall's 3rd season, because his 1st season is so bad, and then his 2nd season added like some amount of like, okay, this can somewhat keep my attention, and now this episode actually adds like genuine character conflicts, and they're not super well folded out, but like they're there. Like I can
some decent politics.
At least Ryan, the Doctor, and Yaz have like arcs, or at least like conflicts internally and externally that I can point to. Which is not that common in other Chibnall episodes somehow.
Very true.
So that's a great way to start off 2021 with kind of a mediocre episode instead of a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Heading in the right direction.
Better things, everyone. Better things are ahead. See ya in the next trip round the Tardis.
Yeah, you could tweet your terrible Doctor Who opinions at Tardis Tropes. Thank you again, Victor, for being here with us again today.
No, thanks for having me.
And we'll see you on the flip side. Bye.
Catch you later.
See ya.